It was the strangest and most horrifying encounter I'd ever experienced. One summer, my friend Emily and I decided to take a trip to the Great Lakes with my dog Zeus. It was one of the warmest summers I can remember, but that didn't stop us. We loaded our gear and headed to the lake, hoping to lose the fears and anxieties of our everyday lives. We'd been training all summer, preparing for the expedition, which would include hiking, kayaking, biking, swimming, and fishing. We made it to our first camping site well before sunset and chose a little area that was off the trail so that we wouldn't be seen. We didn't want any creepers checking our tent at night. Besides having Zeus, who was a rather intimidating German Shepherd, we also carried pepper spray on us. 2 20-year-old girls would make a perfect target out here in the middle of nowhere. After making a little fire, we made dinner and talked about future adventures we could take together. "Where'd Zeus go?" Emily asked. He'd been roaming around the campsite, but we hadn't seen him for a minute. "Zeus, come here, boy!" I shouted, then whistled. Zeus barked, but he didn't come running back. Stay here." I grabbed my flashlight and whistled again. He barked, and I pushed through the growth in the direction he was barking from. It took me a moment to get to him, but I found him sniffing at something hidden in the plants. I crouched down next to him and moved the bush out of the way to reveal a skeleton. I pulled Zeus away as he continued to bury his nose into it. When I pulled him, I accidentally dropped my flashlight. I bent down, trying to find it, and as I walked backwards, I fell into a ditch. I started yelling, telling Zeus to get Emily. I eventually managed to find my flashlight and climb out of the ditch. "Carrie!" I heard Emily screaming from the opposite direction. "Carrie, help!" I ran towards her voice near the lake, but couldn't find her. Then I heard something running towards me, then barking. Emily grabbed me, asking if I was okay. Zeus started licking me. "Wait, are you okay? I heard you yelling for help. I thought you fell into the water." "What? No?" Zeus ran to me and I sensed something was wrong, so I followed him here. "But you said you fell and needed help." "No, I didn't. Carrie, I don't think we're safe out here." "You're telling me? Wait until I show you something." I showed her what Zeus had discovered earlier. When we got close enough, my light revealed strange marks on several of the bones. I'm no expert, but those look like teeth marks. Animals have probably been eating off of it for a while. "I mean, human teeth marks," I said, and Emily looked at it closer. "Well, I don't feel comfortable out here anymore. Let's go back to town and we can report the body. I don't want to be the next one to go. That body has been here for some time, but I agree. Let's get out of here." We went back to our campsite and packed up all our things. I wasn't a fan of hiking in the dark, but I knew that both of us wouldn't have been comfortable sleeping, knowing there was a decaying body nearby. Our hike started out fine. There was a warm breeze, and we didn't have to share the trail with anyone. We'd made it about halfway down when we heard a crackle of thunder in the distance. Emily and I looked at each other with surprise, since our devices had told us there was no rain or thunderstorms in the forecast. We sped up so that we wouldn't get caught in a downpour. The wind didn't feel strong, but above us, the dark gray clouds rolled over and released a few bursts of thunder and lightning. Neither of us had a coat or rain gear, so both of us started cursing at the clouds. As if someone had flipped a switch, The warm air turned cold. "Is that snow?" Emily asked as she rose her hand into the air to catch something. "It is." "What's going on?" We came to a dead end as a light flurry began falling around us. Zeus started growling at something on the trail behind us. I raised up my flashlight to see what he was going off about, but there was nothing there. Then, what I thought was part of a tree shifted and moved out of my light beam. "Did you see that?" I asked as Zeus continued to growl. "Yeah, let's get out of here." I calmed Zeus down and took out my pepper spray. Then we started running through the snow and back down the trail. The feeling of being followed prevailed over me. Emily was so quiet because she felt it too. I don't know what made me decide to look back, but I turned with my flashlight and saw it. Standing on the trail far behind us, there was something tall. It appeared to be standing on its hind legs, but I wasn't sure. I pushed Emily to go a little faster. Then there was a crackling sound coming from the trees next to us. Zeus started barking, and our lights found the cause of the movement. Halfway up in the tree, a bony creature held on tight. It was pale and gaunt, with eyes that glowed. At first, I thought it was some sort of animal. Then it turned to look at us with human-like eyes. The two of us screamed as we ran. A glance back revealed the thing watching us curiously. As we neared the end of the trail, the snow had stopped, and the warmth returned. But we didn't pay too much attention to it. When I flipped on the headlights, the creature was crawling towards the car and licking its lips. It sprinted to our car and started clawing on the door. Emily and I screamed. Out of nowhere, a man and woman appeared, one carrying a torch and gun, and the other holding a silver blade. They shot the creature and yelled at us to leave immediately. We thanked them, and I sped out of the lot, tripling the speed limit. When we reached town, we reported our sighting to the police while they took notes that I assume were thrown away once they were done talking to us. I'm not sure what we saw that night, but neither Emily nor I have returned to the Great Lakes ever since. We are lucky to have gotten away, thanks to the two strangers who came to the rescue. What do we have here? The Lover's Ball was written in golden writing. However, there wasn't a name or address on it. Bemused by the invitation, I tore open the envelope to read the hidden contents within. Congratulations! You have been cordially invited to participate in the yearly festivities for our wonderful congregation. Below the message was the address for the event, and it was to start at 10 in the evening of New Year's Eve. In other words, tomorrow night. I felt bad and probably shouldn't have opened the invitation, but I didn't exactly have any plans for the holiday. Well, other than popping open some wine and drinking away the demons in my head. I walked back into my apartment and set the rest of the mail down. Then I thought of my deceased husband, Tristan. Tears welled up in my eyes. I shook my head to force the memories away. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to attend. I'll probably go insane sitting around here on the anniversary of his passing. Mom did say I should get out and meet someone again. I thought it over for a while before finally deciding to attend the masquerade ball. I then spent the rest of the night going through my closet, looking for a dress suitable for a high-class event. After a gruesome 3 hours, I settled on the perfect one. A flowing blue dress, paired with heels and the golden heart-shaped necklace that Tristan had given to me. I guess this will do, I said, inspecting myself in the mirror. Here goes nothing. On New Year's Eve, I arrived at the site right when the gates opened. I felt extremely out of place, sipping wine with my Venetian mask on, as couples danced and laughed in the incredibly luxurious ballroom. The string quartet was in full swing, and while I enjoyed the music, I still felt empty and nearly about to break. "Tristan," I whispered to myself, shaking with despair and anger over his tragic death. I drank some more and noticed a few guests glancing over at me. This was stupid. I shouldn't have even bothered coming alone to something like this. And for whatever reason, I could feel an odd sense of dread emanating from the other partygoers. I set my glass down and turned to leave, but was stopped in my tracks. It can't be. "Hey, Junebug, what's the rush?" My husband chuckled as he placed a mask on his face. His build, his voice, his face was exactly how it was a year ago. Before I could process it all, he grabbed me by the hand and pulled me in for a tight embrace. "Don't worry about what is impossible. Take the gifts given to you and don't question it. That would just ruin the fun of it all." I almost gave in to him, but I knew that this could not be Tristan. I pulled away from him. "No, I saw you. I saw your body lowered into the ground. The crash. Who are you?" "My dear, relax. It's me, your love. You do love me, right?" "Of course I love you. But you died, Tristan. I just can't believe it's you. I'm sorry. I need to leave." I began to walk away from him, but was stopped by partygoers. An uncomfortable silence followed as the musicians stopped playing their music. I tried to move past them. How unfortunate. I hate to be so barbaric about all of this, but... Tristan snapped his fingers, and two guests from the crowd grabbed me by the arms and forced me to my knees in front of him. The crowd laughed as Tristan leaned over and placed his lips next to my ear. "I can give you anything you desire, gifts that are only given to those who willingly give their everything to me. Now, what will it be, my dear? Go to hell." "That's the idea." Tristan grabbed my face and ran his fingers across my lips. I tried to resist, but as he stared into my eyes, I felt my strength leave my body and head become clouded. Wait, why was I resisting in the first place? That was my husband. Tristan embraced me again as the crowd around us dispersed. "Let us enjoy the party." I nodded, and we made our way to the dance floor. We danced, and I felt like I was dreaming. I wanted to feel his lips on me once more. I looked at him, eager to remove his mask. But then, I saw that his emerald green eyes had turned blood red. I broke free from his embrace, screaming, and ran for the nearest exit. When I turned around, all the guests around me were gone. All that was left was a beast with horns on its head. I asked him who he was.
"I am whoever you want me to be. Or rather, your deepest, darkest desire. I know that you've had some really dark thoughts lately. I've come to the rescue."
It was true. I had been battling with depression. At times, I didn't want to continue and even considered ending it after tonight. I didn't want to live another year like this. I asked him what he wanted from me.
"You see, my dear, on the night of the accident, it was you who was supposed to die. Your husband begged me to allow him to trade places with you. I'm giving you the chance to be reunited with him right now. Death cannot be in vain, for if it is, your soul will be forever separated from your lover. If you make a pact with me, I can guarantee you to be together for eternity. Of course, you would have to do my bidding. Tristan sacrificed his life for you. Therefore, he just has to mope around until your reunion. I will not fool you anymore tonight. Once you make a pact with me, it is irreversible. When the clock strikes midnight, you have to decide on whether you want to join Tristan or continue living this life without him. All you'd have to do is seal the deal with yours truly at midnight. With a kiss."
What was going on? I closed my eyes and took 3 deep breaths, something I learned in therapy for when I feel overwhelmed. I thought about it. I considered it. Now's not your time, June. I opened my eyes and Tristan stood in front of me. Huh? Tristan? It's not supposed to be your time either. This is all my fault. I want to be with you now. No, be patient. I will wait for you, my Junebug. I have all the time in the world. You are stronger than you know, so I am begging you to live. He took a few steps closer. He leaned in and kissed me. I heard the bells, midnight, but I didn't want to leave his embrace.
So, I see you've made your decision. Unfortunately, it's midnight. You either join him or part ways.
I looked at Tristan once more and kissed him. An instant later, I woke up in my bed, confused, broken-hearted, but oddly enough, felt lighter. I am unsure if I saw the devil or my husband that night. Perhaps my drink was spiked. I still miss my husband and dream of him all the time. But when my time comes, it'll come. For now, I'm going to try to enjoy the life he gave me. I was excited when I received an email from my agent about a socially distanced live-action film I could audition for. Interested? Among Us? That's cool. I'm so down. I had spent the majority of the past few months playing with my friends and watching live streams. This was so within my realm. Among Us live-action film. We are casting 10 actresses who are familiar with the game Among Us. You will be socially distanced and in full costume and mask the whole time. Requirements must be at least 5'7", athletic, energetic, brave, age 20s, small frame, improv and combat skills are a plus. It stated that I'd even be required to wear a mask the whole time. I figured, what did I have to lose? Either way, it sounded like it would be a great time, and I really needed the money. I guess the requirements weren't anything out of the ordinary. Casting directors are really nitpicky these days. I signed up for an audition and immediately received a code for a private game with brief instructions. I chose a name, color, and joined at the allotted time. What a unique first-round audition. I guess it was their way of making sure they were casting people who were familiar with the game. I joined and waited in the lobby for other players to join. Ugh, crewmate. When the game started, I followed my usual routine of completing tasks, watching who scanned and who was therefore safe, and staying away from anyone sus. I managed to figure out who the imposter was after walking in on them killing another player and venting. Yes. I received an email shortly after congratulating me and the time and location for my callback. At the filming site, I was greeted by the director and given a brief tour. He said that the film would require a lot of improvisation. That's not my strong suit, but he told me not to worry. He then handed me an NDA, and I skimmed through it and signed. I was escorted to a room where I was required to try on a costume. He closed the door and told me that everything would become clear once I put on my costume. I put it on. I was so ready. I was surprised to find a built-in screen and headset attached to the inside of the helmet. When you hear the alarm, please exit the room. Just like the actual game, your goal is to either figure out who the imposter is or for all crewmates to complete tasks. There is one imposter in this game. Decision to leave the game will result in immediate termination. I exited the room and walked around, amazed that I was actually in the game now. The set looked so accurate. From the corner of my eye, I saw Pink confused and circling around. She was trying to communicate with me, but the costumes were completely soundproof. Okay, definitely not the imposter. I turned the corner to fix wiring and complete nearby tasks. When I left weapons, I saw Pink on the ground, covered in blood. It looked like she was shot. I didn't hear any screams or the sound of a gunshot. What the fuck? I ran away, but then remembered that I had to report the body. Suddenly, I could hear the other players.
Guys, what the hell is going on? Pink is dead. Well, yeah, that's the point of the game. No, I mean dead, as in blood and a gunshot wound.
You have 30 seconds left to discuss.
What? I'm so confused. My screen says that Pink, White, and Cyan are already dead.
Same. Guys, this audition seems sketchy. And I could have sworn I saw Yellow following me.
What? I didn't even see you. I was in medbay, scanning.
Damn it. I only had a few tasks complete. I needed to hurry up.
Wow, already? Who and where? Blue is dead. I found her in electric. What the fuck? She's actually dead with multiple stab wounds.
Oh god. So it is really happening?
Wait. Blue said that Yellow was sus. It's probably Yellow. Let's vote her out.
No, I was in security. I swear, it's not me. And you didn't see anything on camera? That's sus.
What the fuck?
I'm not lying. If anything, check Orange. She's been really quiet.
I don't even want to be here.
This is not what I signed up for. I'm taking this damn costume off and leaving. Fuck! The rule was not to leave the game. Oh no, we're down to 5 now. I still say Yellow is sus. I mean, Blue said so and now she's dead. Guys, please, no. I don't want to die. We need to act fast. Please. No, there's no way we can complete the tasks in time. I say we stick together if Yellow isn't the imposter. No more voting after this. I ran as fast as I could to find the others. When I reached the outside of security, I saw Purple on the floor with Black and Lime standing next to her. Who was it? Honestly, I don't know. Lime and I ran there one after the other, and Purple was already on the ground with a broken helmet. Are there really only 3 of us left? Oh man, we're gonna die. We need to stick together. Fuck! I can't see. Oh gosh, I saw something when I was going to fix lighting. Who was in there with me? I think I saw Lime getting ready to kill me, so I ran to the buzzer. I don't know, it's so dark. I'm scared. I'm just trying to stick with you. I swear, it's not me. I could have sworn I saw you getting too close. I don't know if the lighting is screwing up my vision, but I think I saw green. I ran to fix the lighting. And as soon as I got there, I saw someone waiting in the darkness. I immediately booked it and ran as quickly as I could towards the others. I looked back for a moment and saw someone with long tentacles. I felt one touch my back and ran faster. I reached the cafeteria and was shocked to see Lime and Black already there. I looked behind me again and saw it. Green immediately grabbed Lime with its tentacles and inserted one into her chest. At the same time, Black and I put our hands on the button. The imposter wasn't any of us. Where the fuck did Green come from?
Good job. You 2 are free to go now. You both are the winners. Your payments have been sent via Bitcoin.
I stood up quickly and looked around the coffee house for help. But as I surveyed the room, my blood ran cold. The building was completely empty. What had just been vibrant with laughter and chatter is now deadly silent, save for the panicked breathing of Kate and me. I mustered a whimper. Kate, We have to get out of here right now. I grabbed her hand, and we made our way to the back of the building. She was completely silent and clearly in shock. Fortunately, the rear exit was unlocked, so we made a mad dash away from the coffee house towards the wooded park area behind it. As we ran, I turned my head back to see if he was behind us, and through the quickly fading light of the doorway, I saw his long-fingered hand wrap around the frame as his featureless head peered out towards us. We can't outrun him. We have to hide, I whispered through hurried breaths as we sprinted into the darkness of the woods. The park was not exceptionally large, but big enough for us to escape. Or so I hoped. My legs were hurting so bad, and finally, I couldn't keep up with Kate any longer. Sarah! I heard Kate exclaim as my legs gave out and I collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Sarah, give me your hand. We have to hide right away. She pulled me off to a small nook under an uprooted tree, and we held each other as long as possible to fit where we wouldn't be visible. Several excruciating minutes passed without the Slender Man appearing, and then Kate broke the silence. Sarah, I remember everything now. The girl we knew, what happened to her, everything, she said in a hushed but calm voice. He's going to find us if you don't be quiet. We need to focus on getting out here, right now. No, Sarah, you need to remember too, Kate murmured emotionlessly. We'll talk about that all later, I hissed through clenched teeth. Her name was Eliza. We didn't make up the Slender Man. He's real, and he stalked us as kids. We ran and hid until he eventually caught us. He said one of us would be taken. One would escape and forget everything, and the other would become his agent. I looked at her in complete horror as she slowly turned her face back towards me, and I saw on her forehead that she had a circle with an X through it. I tried to get away, but she held fast and tight. Let go of me, I cried out with tears racing down my face as I struggled. You know that I can't, she said in a solemn whisper as inky black tendrils slowly crept out from behind her. With a final shove of desperation, I burst from her grip, and with the last of my strength, I darted away back towards the coffee house, hoping that I could slip past and find help. I looked back towards the tree and saw Kate slowly emerge with her tendrils dragging against the ground. With my head turned away, I couldn't see as I ran headlong onto something solid, tall, and thin. I lost my balance and collided with the ground. I looked up and saw the pale, featureless face of Slender Man obscuring the moonlight through the trees. I tried to scream, but as my mouth opened, I felt a cold, smooth tendril cover my mouth. My eyes darted around until I saw Kate standing over me too. Then I was blinded by another of Slender Man's tendrils. The last thing I heard before everything went black was Kate, as she whispered just loud enough to be heard. The runaway has been brought home. Lived in apartments for most of my life, and for me, it's always felt a little safer. Like I have more control over things, and there is less room for the imagination to run wild. But when I got married and we decided that we wanted a place of our own, we decided to buy a house. I'm not fond of living in houses, especially the ones that are very old. We can never truly know its past or full history, if only the walls could talk. The first thing you notice when you step into a house is the vibe it gives off. The sound of the floors creaking when being stepped on, or the way the wind blows outside. You want to know if anyone has died in the house or on the grounds of where it was built. Well, we finally found the perfect house, or so we thought. It seemed very lively. The family that used to own the house was a family of 5, a husband, wife, 2 boys, and a girl. When we first stepped into the house with our agent, it was full of light and love. Parts of the house were recently renovated, including the living room, which had a stunning fireplace. Their belongings were still in every room because they were waiting to sell the house before moving. The agent kept saying it would be the perfect place for a first-time homeowner, and when I asked about the history, she said there wasn't anything unusual about the place. On the day of closing, the family was moving their stuff out. I noticed the sons and daughter crying, saying they didn't want to leave. I took this as a good sign, knowing that the previous owners adored and were attached to the house. Before leaving, the mother approached me and said that they were all sad to say goodbye to the house, but they needed a fresh start. I parked my car and stared at the empty house from the outside. It looked a bit sad, and I kind of felt like everything had changed. I couldn't quite explain it. I made my way inside and felt chills run up my spine. I walked around a bit and stared at all the empty rooms. It was no longer happy. No love and no light. There was one room in particular I did not like. We turned it into the guest bedroom so that way I'd never have to go inside. Whenever I passed by that room, I felt like I was being watched. But for some reason, I couldn't avoid it, and my eyes would end up peeking inside. So I always left the door closed. Until one night, my husband and I were arguing. It was around 1 a.m., and I decided to sleep in the bedroom across from the guest room. I noticed that the door was open. Maybe my husband went in earlier to get something. We were still in the process of unpacking. I brushed it off and closed the door. I still felt like I was being watched, but since I was so stressed out about the argument, I laid on the bed and fell asleep, angry. It was around 3:30 a.m. when I woke up. I heard my doorknob turn and the door slightly open. It startled me, but I thought it was my husband going in to apologize, so I pretended to still be asleep. I waited a few seconds, thinking he was going to crawl into bed with me, and then I heard a voice, and it was not his voice.
Where do I go now?
It was a girl, maybe around 4 years old. I was terrified. I thought I was still dreaming, so I pinched myself under the covers as hard as I could to wake myself up. And that's when I heard footsteps coming closer to the bed. I felt cold air through the blankets even though the heater was on, since it was winter. I decided to be brave and see if I could try to turn on the lamp beside the bed. I told myself that on the count of 3, I'd do it. I started to count down. 3, 2, 1. I threw the covers off me only to find a little girl. Her eyes were all red from crying. Her hair was long and black. Her body was covered in scars. She was wearing what looked like a nightgown, except it was covered in ash. She looked at me, and I looked at her. She then proceeded to ask me again,
Where do I go now?
and started coughing. I rolled out of bed from the opposite side and ran to my husband. I woke up the next day thinking it was all just a nightmare. I decided to put stuff away in our attic. As I was putting a box away, I tripped. When I looked down, I saw a floorboard that was sticking up very slightly. Very odd. I called my husband over and he lifted the floorboard only to find a secret compartment. Inside, there were little toys along with a metal frame face down. I picked it up, wiped away the dust, and only then did I realize that it was not a dream. I recognized the girl. She looked so happy and full of life. I decided to call the previous owners of the house in hopes of finding out more. This had to be their photo, but whenever I called, it went straight to voicemail. I brought it up to my husband, who admitted that sometimes in the middle of the night, he'd randomly wake up and hear a faint voice along with coughing coming from the living room. We finally had enough when I woke up to the smell of smoke and found tiny embers in the fireplace. I told him that we couldn't live there anymore, but I decided to contact a medium. The next day, she came over to our house and immediately felt a presence when she entered. She closed her eyes and started talking to herself while walking around the living room, and then teared up while standing in front of the fireplace. She asked if I had seen the little girl. I was speechless. She was quiet for a few minutes, then started reciting a prayer in Latin. She looked at me and said that the spirit of a little girl was stuck inside the house and that we needed to help her. She asked if there was anything in the house that she left behind. I immediately remembered the secret compartment in the attic and grabbed the photo and toys. I gave it to the medium. She lit up a white candle, took out a crucifix, and she started praying for protection, asking her guardian angels to set up rings of fire to shield the space from dark forces. Immediately, I felt a small gust of warmth. Next, she asked them to send down portals of light. The medium spent time asking the girl questions like if she knew she was dead and if she was ready to move on. The girl is reaching out for help. She is overcome by guilt for disobeying her parents. She is full of sadness because her family left.
Where do I go now?
I heard her little voice again. The medium spent a while reassuring her that she no longer had to worry because her family loves and forgives her, and that she is free to cross over. With the portals open, the medium asked her guardian angels to help the little girl cross over to the light. The room vibrated, then went completely silent. After a few minutes, I asked her what happened. It seems that Suzanne wasn't able to rest after feeling so much guilt with her family selling her home and moving away. This often happens. Souls can return to familiar places when they are lost, but don't worry. She is now in a place of love and warmth. After giving it some thought, I contacted my real estate attorney and decided to back out of the sale for misrepresentation of the house. It wasn't too difficult considering I work at a law office. After further investigation, we found out that the little girl was the previous homeowner's second daughter. She had passed away after making s'mores in front of the fireplace with her siblings when their parents weren't home. Her nightgown caught on fire, and when the firemen arrived, it was too late. She had asthma, and the smoke had reached her lungs. She passed away in the hospital from an asthma attack. Her siblings survived with minor injuries. I'm glad we helped the girl cross over and that the ghost wasn't a vicious one. But for now, my husband and I decided to move to an apartment again. We might buy a house in the future, but only if we do extensive research on the property beforehand. You never truly know what comes attached to a house.